Revelers. This is Off the Rails, Right versus Left, the podcast that we do because we think the left is evil. I'm Rob B.
And I'm Brad Lee.
And I'm Brian G.
And we are Off the Rails, Right versus Left. Again, we're doing this show because we think everybody needs to know that the left is evil.
Classic.
Welcome, Revelers. Off the Rails, Right versus Left. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rob B. With me, as always,
Brad Lee.
And shortly here, we should be getting joined by Brian G. And I invited another guest. We'll see if they pop in. But man, like figuring out what to talk about on this first show after the holidays was kind of tough because we got a lot going on in the news. And then like the fascists are getting like desperate. Like these liberals are going crazy and they're like trying to like full force all of their agendas. So like there's always so much to talk about with these guys. But like to start off with, like what is going on in China and why the hell is none of the Democrats willing to comment on it?
None of them. Probably for the same reason that they don't want to disavow Balenciaga or Balenciaga, whatever the fuck it is, that Fat McGee and
the clothing line with the pedo ads.
Yeah. Nobody's saying anything about that. Or what about Alyssa Milano? I had no idea she was still a thing, dude. Like,
she's not a thing.
Giving her Tesla back because white supremacists taking over Twitter, and she goes and buys Volkswagen. Like.
Right, and that car company was literally founded by the number one bad guy in the history of the world.
Right. So she was, was comparing Elon and Tesla to that guy, and then she went out and supported the person they created.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Anyways, just for the viewers, we kind of like get out there and like get rowdy on this show. We're still going to, but about the first 30 minutes of the show, we're going to try and kind of keep it clean because we are getting attacked and targeted by YouTube. So we're trying to, I guess, minimize the damage, if you will. So that's all there is to it. Like, so. At the 30-minute mark, we're going to kill the YouTube feed, and we'll still be free on Rumble. You can switch over and check us out. We're just trying to avoid the censors for the first part of the show. So we're going to be using euphemisms sometimes. So anyway, but yeah, so I just wanted to be clear on that because, yeah, me and Brian talked about it a little bit, but the censorship racket over at YouTube is like kind of crazy. So, yeah, they tell, that's the part that I don't get. They tell us that none of our content violates the terms of service. And then they give us a 7-day ban saying that our content that they just reviewed violates the terms of service. Oh, well. Anyway, so back to China. Like, absolutely seems like we could have the
protest.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different protests, and like you even like saw this one that they're calling her the new Tiananmen Square tank girl or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I heard that he had sent tanks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was before he sent in the tanks. Like, it was just like the troops marching in, and she literally walked right into them and started fighting them.
Damn. How come she was the
like
only one?
this little?
How come she was the only one? There was literally millions of people.
Yeah.
How come she was the only one with the balls
Dude, you've been seeing a lot of the videos escaping. The Communist Party doesn't like it, but a lot of that video has been escaping.
Oh
And
yeah, they're
like,
in cahoots.
she's not the only one. Yeah, she's not the only one. Yeah, that's like crazy. So Apple is like denying access to the airdrop. So people can't like spread out the pictures so the government can't get all the phones, you know?
Right. So that we over here in the West can't see what's actually going on.
Yeah, and then all these other companies are like handing over user data and tracking information and all that. Like it's just so freaking nuts how like deep they're getting in this like oppression and suppression. Like, and it's really scary because you can kind of see the tendrils of the apparatus being put in place here, and you started seeing some of it with the January 6th thing, like, and they're like geofence warrants and stuff like that. Dan Bongino was talking about that today. Like, if you guys want to know like how crazy it is that you can literally get surveilled because you happen to be like within the proximity of something.
Yeah.
Dude, they dragged like something like 5,000 people and surveilled them just for being somewhat in proximity to the Capitol that day.
Right.
Like, how is that legal? That's not legal. That is absolutely not legal.
They gained access to all that shit without warrants. So where's the tyranny coming from? It's coming from the fucking globalists, right? Who all own these fucking major corporations.
Right. So and I don't know, and you heard like Klaus, what's his name, from the WEF, like talking about how like China's ability to control their population makes them a role model. It's like insane.
Right. Yeah. You ain't gonna control this population, I can tell you that.
And look at who like the WEF people are. People like Liz Warren, Barack Obama, Bill Gates, Bezos. These are all WEF people.
Oh yeah.
Like that's why I think they're targeting Elon Musk. He's not a WEF guy.
Right. Yeah.
He's a WTF guy, not a WEF guy.
Right.
So, yeah, that's just like insane. But like they were doing the same thing in like Australia with like the drones following people. They're doing the same thing in Canada, like tracking people down by their electronic information.
Oh yeah.
Like so completely insane.
But over there it's legal. Right? Because it's a socialist communist state.
Yeah,
but over here, I mean, they have rules that not that they always follow those rules, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. So it's like, well, yeah, and then they like, I mean, look at how many rights that they violated after 9/11. Look how many rights they violated after the outbreak of the Voldemort virus. Like, it's just kind of insane, like how the creep of the authoritarianism like broke out all over the supposedly democratically elected free world. But if you look at where all that's happening, it's all places where like people in emergency situations allow their governments to get a little bit more power to fix this problem, and they never give the power back, and they always just continue to expand on it. I mean, like what was it, the Patriot Act, and then Patriot Act Part 2 and Part 3, and every time they reauthorize it, they add a whole bunch of new like tools in there.
Yeah.
So what worries me is like that normal people just want to get along, and they don't want to always fight about this stuff, and they don't like always want confrontation, and so we kind of like stand back on it, and like to our detriment, like clearly, because like they're pushing their agenda, they're not slowing down, they're not gonna I mean, and every time me and Brian were talking about this, like you give them an inch, they take 15 miles.
Oh, really?
And if you tell them you guys are going to take 15 miles, they're like, no, we're not. And then they'll just take a mile at a time until they get to 20 miles.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's kind of like that's the thing, like, you know, the people in China, they like consist like quasi authoritarian, like communist regime, you know, held up by the government, as long as they had a little bit of, you know, financial mobility and personal freedom, then they were still about, you know, being all gung ho and like getting into the, you know, for the nation and the good of all, you know. But now they're like just stripping that all down because they put all these tools in place in order to do that. And they're like, I mean, you saw the same thing with like the housing bubble burst that happened over there like a couple months ago, when the mortgage companies were going belly up and people were refusing to pay their mortgages and all that, and making runs on the banks. I think so. Okay, so but China's one of the triplets in what's going on right now. So you got Russia that started a war, and their people are rebelling against the war. You've got Iran, who, like, people are just tired of their daughters and sisters and mothers and shit getting brutalized by the government regime, and so they're fighting back on that. And then you got, hey, look who joined. So and it, and he yeah, and he was able to turn himself on now because he's got admin status too.
I turned him on.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah.
Brian, you could have turned yourself on. So is his name right? Yep, he's Brian G. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so the really the that it's crazy that probably the three like most powerful like dictatorships in the world may be on the verge of collapsing. And make no mistake, if Putin goes down, Kazakhstan's going to go down, Belarus is going to go down, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, all those dictatorships that were part of the CIS, they're going to collapse too, because Russia's what holds them up.
What, Georgia, that Russia came into and took over and placed their own leader in?
No. So Kazakhstan, like the
Uh-oh, what happened to him?
We lost him.
What happened?
He's gone.
There.
Our fearless leader is gone. Oh, wait, there he is. Wait, no, he's gone.
Oh, he just left. All right. So, anyways, Brian, what we're talking about is the stuff that's going on, the crap that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with Balenciaga and China. But right now, we were just discussing China and the protests that were going on there.
Oh yeah, and that's huge. I mean, it's the biggest protest since Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, not only has the Chinese government activated the military for the protests, but also that their Apple is colluding with the Chinese Communist Party to perform updates on phones without people knowing about it, and making it so that they can no longer do airdrops to talk to each other and
Apple's colluded with the Chinese government. Yeah, Apple's colluded with the Chinese government forever.
Isn't that where all their stuff is made?
Yeah, right now they've looked at when the pandemic hit and they closed everything down. They looked at expanding their production to some plants here in the U.S. and they've also looked at expanding over to India. But right now, yeah, their major plant is right there in China. In fact, when the virus, a month ago or a few weeks ago, when the virus was found in one of their plants, there was a mad dash by the employees. Rob, your name is Bradley. Oh, he's off again. Yeah. There was a mad dash by the employees, climbing over the walls, getting out, running down the highways in the wrong direction to get away from the plant before they locked it down, because they knew once it was locked down, there was no getting out, and there was barely enough food there now for the people to eat.
Right.
So they knew if they didn't get out, they were going to starve to death. But the people in China are just sick of the lockdowns. My wife, who, when she first got here back in 2018, she was all about, oh, I love China. I love China. That's where I want to be. I would love to go back, but this is, I think this is better for my kids. That's why she's here and I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But she went from that to they're nuts.
Right.
The government's crazy. I could never go back there.
She's like, forget that.
Yeah, she changed big time on that one.
She got a taste of American freedom, and she was like, I'm not getting back on that train.
Well, we're in a small town up here and right on the Canadian border, and she could never imagine. I mean, to her, a small town was 6 million people.
Right. Yeah.
So she never could imagine being in a small town of, thousands.
Right.
But now she's like, I couldn't take all those people. But I mean, the lockdowns are nuts. They're crazy. No way. I don't want to go over there and be in lockdown for 2 weeks. You have to take a test every 3 days. There was people being welded into their homes. We lost them again.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Like, where in the world does a government like weld its people into buildings? Like, where does that happen? I've never heard of such a thing. Like, China, seriously, dude. Like, well, what happened? What happened was a building caught on fire, and as far as we know, only 10 people have died. But dude, that's
BS.
Those 10 people, which I'm sure it's a lot more.
What do they
say? Like, what?
What do they say? A few thousand people died from the virus there? Is that what their number is? A few hundred, few thousand, whatever?
Yeah, well, I know they were trying to keep it hush hush for like a long time.
You saw videos coming out of Wuhan with body bags lining the streets, and there was reports of the crematories, smokestacks working overtime.
Right.
They were trying to burn the evidence, and they still argue that Tiananmen Square, where there was over 1,000 people killed in those riots, they still say, oh, there was like 12 people dead, a few hundred people, maybe a few hundred people dead, depending on who you talk to in the Chinese government.
Right.
I used to get onto the CCTV, that's the Chinese Communist television, just to get a Chinese perspective. But I couldn't take it anymore because they are so blind. But I used to get on there, and they used to say, "Oh, what are you talking about? There was nobody killed in Tiananmen." It's like, what are you talking about? Oh no, there was no. Yeah, that's just Western propaganda.
Just like January 6th, it was a tragic day.
Yeah, or my wife getting over here so blinded by the Chinese propaganda that I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to go to Taiwan and see the communities and see the people. And it's like, absolutely not. No way do I want to go there. They're so dirty. The people live in squalor. They're
Where,
so
Taiwan?
Yeah, I'm like, babe.
Dude, I've been to Taiwan. It is really, really nice.
I know. I'm like, babe, Taiwan is one of the richest countries, one of the richest countries in the world, and their people have a great standard of living. Oh no, that's just the tourist areas. It's like, no, babe, look at the pictures. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
She softened up on that, but that's what China forces their people. That's what they feed them because they want to take China back, as everyone here knows. So if you make Taiwan sound like this rich, beautiful, people are well off, living a great lifestyle, then the people are like, why are we going in?
Yeah,
if they make them sound like they're living in dirt, living on the street, poor, then they go, well, we're going in to save them.
Right. The same shit that we do over here.
You fix your issues there, Rob?
With homelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the 4th time you went out and come back on us.
Well, I ended up rebooting my phone because somebody really irritates me because I specifically sent a message saying I'm going to be on the podcast. I will call you in a few hours. And I ended up having to fully reboot the device. But right now I'm just sending a message to the chat.
You should come up with a different image for our logo up there rather than having the white one. Maybe the other version off the rails. Just to have something different. I'm just saying. Yeah, no, China is nuts. I mean, just look at what they're doing to the Uyghurs over in the West. northwestern area. They'll still argue that, oh, we're not killing the Uyghurs. That's you, host.
Yep.
They're just arguing that they're not doing anything to the Uyghurs. They'll show videos of the Uyghurs going, "Oh, we love the Chinese. The Chinese are great." But then there's literally millions of them being put into re-education camps, being sterilized. They're having their organs cut out and sold off on the black market.
Yeah, but do they even know that's happening?
Well, some of the people have clues of it happening, but I mean, a lot of the Chinese don't have a clue. And that's what we were talking about, how blinded the Chinese are. And I was talking about my wife coming over while you were having all your issues. Now she's around. But
I got some admission. I've got some issues, that's for sure, over here.
Yeah. No, but I
and my streaming was acting up too.
Right. No, I don't think there's any chance of Xi Jinping losing his position there. I mean, he'll move.
Uh-oh. Is it Brian's turn to freeze up on us?
Yeah, it looks like it. You can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm trying to pull the patch because I figured we got Brian talking like crazy over there. You cut out for a minute there, Brian. I don't know what you were saying.
Yeah, I don't think there's any risk of Xi Jinping losing his position.
I don't think.
He'll roll in and squash the protest, and then people will go home. And it'd be great if the people did continue going and changing stuff. But China, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, they need to though. I mean, seriously, if they want. I mean, how much can they take? I guess is what it's going to ultimately come down to, right? Because, like you said,
Rob, it looks like you pissed on the side now.
Like you said, Xi isn't going to do anything, and he's not going to lose his power. What it's going to take is all the people of China to realize that there's more of them than there is of the government and the military. And some people are unfortunately gonna have to die, but they need to get out of that communist.
Here's my thing with China, and I've said it before. One reason I wanted to get my wife out of China before everything hit the fan. China, when Mao took over, they went full on communist. After Mao took over, they decided that's the government they were going to go with, and they got rid of all the rich. And they really third world country. I mean, China back in the old days was, the high tech, the example for the world. A couple hundred years ago, until they really squashed everything down and got so corrupt. But they went full on communist. They got rid of all the rich. But then in the late 70s, late 80s, they sort of pivoted and switched to where the people all of a sudden could make a profit. And they did encourage the free market. And that's what turned China around. That's what really opened them up and really took them from a third world country. And then in 2000 really kicked into full gear and got them to where they are now, where they're the second richest country in the world. They have an extremely high...
I think I'm just high as GDP, but there it is still. I mean that's like $1,000 a year. Third world.
Man,
hey, turn your mic down.
You sound weird, man.
Okay, is that?
Well, can't hear you.
Something happened with your mic, bro.
I was going, is there somebody else on here? Because it sounds like a really
I was like, what is he talking? What's going on? And then I was like, oh, it's Rob talking.
Yeah, then I saw him moving and could sort of make out his voice a little bit.
It sounded to me like the Chinese were listening in onto our show and like getting in on there.
Okay.
It's still off, but we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know.
I can barely hear you. It sounds like your microphone's blown.
Shit. Let me.
Yeah, I don't know, but what I was saying basically was, they the way they turned around and became the second largest GDP, and the people got a much higher standard of living. People moved to the city, and I've lived there for months, and I lived there with them. It's not like I was a tourist just living there in the tourist areas. I lived with my wife and her family and our kids. So they have a very good standard of living. I mean, not like the U.S., where the poor has their own cell phones and have a lot of freedom that they don't. But they have a really good style of living, and the way they did that was opening up their market and letting people be Chinese, letting the Chinese people create things. Now, granted, they are one of the biggest thefts of intellectual information in the world. I mean, I can't blame them there because they were so far behind. They needed to catch up. Honestly, if we're not going to take the time and use the resources to protect our own stuff, bad on us.
Right.
I mean, we steal information from other people, so that's what people.
We got to know that it's happening to us as well.
I think it's wrong the way they do it. I think it's disgusting. But basically, my point is that's how they got there. They opened up the market, let the Chinese be Chinese and create and build. Well, now Xi Jinping, since he has his third term and the term for the rest of his life, he is tightening the grip. He is taking things back to where it's a closed market. The government decides. If you've ever seen Atlas Shrugged, where the government decides where all the resources go. Okay, this resource is going to this plant, this resource is going to this plant. They decide everything. And that's exactly what the Chinese government is doing now. And with that, they're stifling the Chinese people. And how long is these people who, for now, an entire generation, almost 2 generations, have been able to do what they want? They actually build wealth. How long are they going to keep letting it go until they're finally like, you know what, we're willing to be willing to let them tell us how to live our life completely and not.
How's my microphone now?
Better.
It was.
Okay. So here's my question. Do you think it's coincidental that basically one of the fathers of the prosperity that they have now, the previous president, dies right as they need a distraction because of all the protests?
Did he die? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, the one who was spearheaded. I don't know. They all seem the same. He is another G or something like that. I don't know. But the one that was the one that was actually the leader of China from 2000 to 2013, and he's the one that gave way to Xi Jinping in 2012. He was somewhere around there. But yeah, he's the one that actually just died.
Yeah, I was just listening to a book, the coming collapse of the Chinese system or government or whatever, and of course I was written back in, I think it was 2004. So there's no prospects of a true leader coming into the coming up. So the question is, what will happen to China? It's a paper tiger, and they're going to collapse and fall apart. Well, then Xi showed up after he wrote the book, obviously. But I think with Xi coming in, taking full power, that's going to happen. But it's not going to. It's going to happen slow because Xi's going to tighten the grip even more, and he has such a control over his own people.
Yeah, I mean, he does exactly what every Democrat in this country wishes they could do.
Oh yeah, well, back in 2004 to now, they said China was the framework for what they wanted. I mean, literally, there's recordings of Democrats saying that China is the framework. That's our goal. That's where we want to be.
Dude, that was awesome. The way you said that was almost like Trumpy. It almost sounded like you called him China.
China.
Sounded very Trumpy.
It's not racist. We gotta be. It came from China. Excuse me. It came from China.
And we got a big problem from China.
And oh, here's some good news. Chinese cities cut back COVID restrictions after protests.
Well, yeah, that was
That's a headline in the Daily Wire.
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah, it's yeah. They're still going to hunt down everybody that took part in the protest and kill them.
You want to hear how
They'll disappear like they always
transformery Zuckerberg is?
do. Yeah.
How's that?
Zuckerberg joins Musk in criticizing Apple's iron grip on its app store.
Yeah. Well, I think Zuckerberg's seen the issues with his losing, almost half his fortune already. Because
Well, okay, so and with Zuckerberg, like think about like how much money for as much money as Facebook's making.
yeah,
Like
Well,
they
they're
own a
losing it
ton
now.
of no, but they own a ton of game companies, and like how much money are they giving to Apple as part of all of this?
yeah,
So like that was something that like app makers have been like complaining about forever is like how much of the pie these guys want, because it's kind of insane how much they want.
yeah.
Like it's a lot. It's like they got two fistful. So by the way, I ordered a new light, so I'll have the mobile ring light, so I'll have better lighting wherever I go.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
anyway,
bad.
so yeah, so it's China. So it's China. It's Iran is looking more and more vulnerable, and then Russia is obviously looking vulnerable. So like it kind of makes me worried that the governments of the three most evil and unstable countries in the world are all facing dangers because they tend to handle those things one of two ways: uh, mass murder of their own citizens or external aggression. Well, Russia's already in the external aggression phase, and like I don't think they can do much more. Like I mean, they can ramp up. I mean, they do have lots of Soviet era equipment, and they can easily like arm up another couple million people.
Yeah, easily. Well, I think
And they are. Go ahead.
Iran and Russia are, yeah, there's good likelihood that both of them could fall. The government. I mean,
Yeah.
even he could be thrown out by his own regime. I think Iran could pull apart just like it did back in '75 when I was born, and the Ayatollah took over. But China, I don't see it. If he keeps tightening the grip, it could eventually happen, but not anytime soon. They are so brainwashed there. I mean, I watched it with my wife. They are so brainwashed that it's just hard to see them not eventually squashing it and the people just going, oh, that happened, but okay, let's keep living.
Right.
Rob, you need to take your headset back to 5 Below.
5 Below.
I don't think no. This one I didn't get the 5.
It's crackly again. Like you were really good for like 15, 20 minutes, and then you did something.
Maybe it's me.
Okay.
No, I can hear you fine.
No, I know. But
Is it better when it's switched?
No, it's all crackly. Something happened, and it fucking went from good to.
You're gonna listen back to this last one and go, "Oh God, man, you guys are right. It was horrible."
Oh. Well, here, let me kill this thing.
I don't know what happened because that thing was like really good. Like I don't know what I did to it. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're in the background a little bit, but much better, much clearer voice.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of like, if you think about it though, when the dictatorships fall, it always seems to be kind of all at once. You know what I mean? So like if Xi Jinping falls, we're not going to see it coming. Like, did you really see this massive nationwide protest coming? Like, nobody did.
Yeah.
but maybe a little bit they were emboldened because like there wasn't a lot of coverage about anything happening to people. Well, their information suppression is kind of working against them. You know what I mean? So like they suppress information about the protests over the banking issues over there, and then they about that whole like loan scam thing that they had going, and then because they suppress the information about the protests, they're not really promoting how they punish the protesters, because allowing acknowledgement of mass protests might encourage mass protest. You get what I'm saying? So like the information control regime is actually working against them, because the clear warning that they could be sending to the people about what they're doing is removed, because they don't want, you know, it's like hiding what the punishment for the crime was so nobody knows the crime happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of funny watching you, just because your voice sounds a lot better, but as you're moving, you're kind of choppy moving, so it looks like you have like a major issue, and you're just like, I can't hold still. I gotta move.
Yeah. Anyway, so welcome whoever's watching us on Twitter. We just like had somebody pop up on Twitter and start following us. So welcome.
I think you mean Twitch.
So
Twitch.
Huh?
Twitch.
No, I got a Twitter notification. So
okay.
I'm getting notifications from everything. So we're on Twitter, Twitch, DLive, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. By the way, where are we at? How far into the show are we? I don't even know.
37
minutes. Notice something. When we end the YouTube stream, are we streaming on YouTube? Because we're blocked right now. We can't add new content.
Well, I don't know anything about like an alternative YouTube channel or anything like that. So anyways, before we dig into the main issues, we're gonna take a little quick break. When the outro ends, the YouTube stream is gonna be off, and we are gonna go off the rails like we always do.
Bluetooth, piss off.
Yeah, piss off Bluetooth. We're gonna go and stream all of our content 100% for everybody. Again, just a quick break, you guys, and then we're gonna be right back. I'm just killing the YouTube stream.
In a van down by the river.